This video is about our new 2022 line, and this is the BC5. When you will receive it, it'll be crated, and there's little latches on the crate that you can unbend and just lift the entire crate out, and it'll look somewhat like this when it's in the crate, probably some styrofoam around it, depending on whether you pick it up or have it shipped to you. And so you just need to carefully remove all the plastic shrink wrap, and then we'll show you what else to do. After removing the shrink wrap, you'll see that there's generally some foam wrapping around some of the parts, such as the trier spoon, the lamp, and inside the cooling tray will be the hopper, which is wrapped up. That'll need unwrapped. And there either will be inside the box with the fan or in the cooling tray some other parts, such as the USB cords, a couple of clamps if you want to use them with your exhaust system, and also a Bluetooth dongle in case your laptop or computer requires that and does offer Bluetooth connectivity with Artisan. So you remove all that and then get it set up, and we'll show you what one other box you need to look into. So as you can see, I've removed all the packing. I've installed the hopper. There's also a set screw on the back side of the hopper that you can use a metric hex key and tighten that down so your hopper won't jiggle around or won't come off, just in case you were to bump it or something. There's one other thing I want to show you that's involved in the packing. On the back you'll see the chaff fan, and it's usually attached with a nylon cloth strap that you can either cut off or use a drill to take off the strapping, and then you'll put it right on top of the chaff unit. Bear with me if you hear some background noise. That's our fan, because today is supposed to hit 117, 118 right now. I don't know what it is in the warehouse, probably about 112. But anyway, the last time we did an extensive viewing of the BC models 3.5 or 5 was on the BC 3.5, which is basically identical to the 5 except for in size. But as of the 2021 model, we made a couple of changes. One of those changes were the colors of the housing and things like that, just cosmetic. But we also changed to 3mm probes or thermocouples. Those are the K-type thermocouples. And then in the 2021 model, we upgraded and changed a few things. We upgraded to a heavy-duty, if you look over here, I don't have the camera on it great, but a super heavy-duty chaff fan. And if you look down here, we went with the Magnehelic type gas gauge. And because this heavy-duty chaff fan no longer works with the fan speed control, your complete airflow control is done through your manual dial damper. And of course, you automatically get a mag airflow gauge, which we'll install in a minute and show you. And then replacing that old switch that you would basically just use for turning off the fan to clean the chaff unit is an emergency stop button, which can still be used to temporarily clean off the or clean out the chaff unit, providing you're not running any beans through the machine. And then also, if there's ever an emergency, that you can flip that off and it shuts all power off to the machine. So that's basically some of the new things on the 2022 models, which now make them what we call heavy duty, even though in reality the BCs were always heavy duty. Now they're just more so. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about installing the Magnehelic airflow gauge, as you'll get a PDF on it, plus there's a separate video on it. Basically, on the side of your roaster, on the backside neck of your roaster, are two extra bolts. The one in the middle is if you ever want to add extra thermocouples and run a fidget or a different type of data logger. But the one on top is the one we're focusing on. Using a number 10mm wrench or a pair of pliers or crescent wrench, just remove that bolt there, and then you're going to install the new one. And with your Magnehelic gauge, you get this silicone tube, and it usually has the little connector already attached to it. So all you got to do is put that in there and hand tighten it as best as you can, and then just give it a couple turns with a wrench. I don't believe the number 10 works for that. It's a little bit bigger. I think it's either 11 or 12. Yeah, here's a 12. I think that's works for it. Yeah, just give it a little tightness. You're going to see that it doesn't go in all the way, but that's okay. That's not what we're getting at, as long as it's got a tight connection. And then this tube will follow around to the back of the roaster and will connect up to your gauge once you install it. Then, as you can see on the back of the roaster, or if you want to call it the side, there's two pre-drilled and holes with screws in them, and you use a number 4 millimeter hex key to remove those screws, and then your gauge will go in like this, and then you simply push in the tube on that. We'll show you the finished product in just a minute. I'm not going to cover all the details that are covered in some of the other manuals, simply because it's 115 degrees out here, and we've gone over this numerous times, but I am going to point out this does have drum speed control. The numbering system is not based on RPM, it's based on percentages of the motor. So a lot of times people will keep it at about 7, and depending on whether you increase it during or right before first crack or not, you might increase it from 7 to 8 or somewhere in that range, or just adjust it according to the type of bean you're doing. There's an on and off switch. I encourage you never to turn it off, because you'll forget when you go to preheat the next day, and that can create problems. There's your USB connection for Artisan software and Cropster. Also with Artisan, you can also go Bluetooth, and there's information on that when you purchase the roaster. Looking at the front now, just to let you know, for those that don't know, this is a solenoid. This is where your gas line connects, whether it be natural gas or propane. And so when we talk about a solenoid, we're talking about that. And conveniently, it's put on the outside of the unit, so if you ever need to replace it or work on it, it's got very easy access. Then you've got your control panel, which is basically the same as it has been, with the exception that the airflow knob has been replaced with an emergency stop button, which is similar to our BC8s and up. So you've got your power button here, which turns on the power. You've got your igniter button here, which may say baking or roasting, or may say igniting. Then you've got your timing button that starts and stops your timer, but to reset it, you have to press the reset button, RST, on the timer itself, and we'll show you in a minute. Then you've got your cooling for the cooling fan that turns on that separate motor, and then the mixing for the mixing motor, which turns on the separate motor. And then if you look over here, and I don't know if it's in the view of the camera, if not, yeah it is, you've got your gas valve, your needle gas valve, which you use to turn up or down your gas pressure, and then it's red on the Magnehelic type gas gauge. This is also a debris tray for, since a roaster has to have a little bit of space between the drum and the front plate, a little bit of debris may fall in between there, and that so can easily be cleaned out. So let's just go through the process, and I'll go through the buttons. And keep in mind, I don't have the gas on, so it's not going to light. This is your power button. When you get it in America, it will be set for Fahrenheit. If you get it in other countries, it will be set for Celsius. This one's already set for Fahrenheit. And there's your timer. So your baking button turns on the igniter, opens up the solenoid, allows gas to go in to the burners and light. You can hear it there, but since I don't have any gas hooked up to it, it's got an emergency shut-off valve that after about 3 or 4 seconds of trying to light, it automatically shuts down the solenoid, shuts down the igniter, and sends off that alarm saying, hey, something's not right, you need to get it right. Either you don't have your gas on, or you weren't given enough airflow, or what have you, and you need to adjust that. And all you got to do is turn it off and press it back on, and as long as you're giving gas to the burners, it should light. This is, as I mentioned, the timing, and that starts and stops your timer. Then to reset it is the button down at the bottom. This turns on the cooling fan, which you'll hear in a minute is much louder than the fan on the chaff unit. And that's primarily because you need quicker cooling power, and if you have that much power pulling air through your drum, it would actually pull beans out into the chaff unit. This is to turn on your mixing motor. So we're going to go through a roast. We're also, if I back it up here for a minute, you're going to see that I've got it hooked up to a clear sky smoke suppression system, and so you'll be able to see how well that does as well.